So after the exile of the Jews from his community, at this point is Uprising more in the shadows, or is everyone pretty much on board with his rule? And does he start having a golden age in a sense?
This would be the beginning of Muhammad's reign over, or sort of the first Islamic golden age. Yes,
Okay.
he rules for 24 years before his death, and it is 24 years, not bloodless years. I must say there is in fact some warfare, but it is generally light on bloodshed and fairly peaceable rule, but it is a rule of amalgamating the Arabian tribes. The Arabian Peninsula at this time, if you were looking on a map, it would be just fragmented into lots of tiny little blots, right? It's not all one nation, all one color. There'd be 20, 30 different colors on that map. It's separated into tons and tons of very local tribes who usually have, they have a tribal settlement, and their power probably reaches as far as they can see on the horizon, and that's
Right.
about as long as their power reaches.
Right. So he unites Arabia.
Yes.
Under a single message, a single cause.
Under those 24 years, he goes around, and both through diplomacy and through military
Right.
might when necessary, unites the entirety of the Arabian Peninsula, which is something that had never been done previously. They were known for being a very, almost, if you're more familiar with European history, almost like the Scots with Romans, right? They're just too clannish and just too savage to ever properly, fully connect them all into one. They're always going to be fragmented and tribal, right?
Right.
And somehow, some way, he managed to unite a community like that, but that is like 4 or 5 times the size of Scotland,
Right.
and unites all of it under one banner.
Right. And they say great rulers rule with both love and fear.
Oh, absolutely.
And it sounds like Muhammad had both, in command of both.
Yes.
So 24 years of rule, and a little bit of warfare, but mostly prosperity. And from here, he's now approaching the age of, what, maybe 60s? And now is he still preaching? He's probably a little bit older now. He probably has teachers underneath him.
Sure. So there are people who teach and preach underneath him, but he does still lead the primary congregation in prayer and in teaching regularly.
Right.
He is the secular, military, political ruler of the community, as well as their greatest pastor. There's no understating how important this man was to his community. He is the chief pastor of the biggest local church, as well as president. He's
Right.
extremely important.
Right. But whenever there's great concentration of power, especially relying on one man,
One person, yes.
you create quite a vacuum upon the death.
If and when he dies, yes.
And it can be quite turbulent. So I imagine something here. This was not a smooth transition.
Yes.
How did this go down?
So at a certain point, he goes back to Medina to visit his first wife, who has been staying in Medina.
Okay.
The first, I should say, of his 14 wives.
All right.
Anyway, but his first wife, who is his true lover, and is the only one he ever had children with, except for one other, I believe, is the answer. So 12 of his wives were like political marriages that there was no love or consummation or children from. And that literally his first wife is through almost all of his children through his first wife. This is truly his woman, right? This is his woman before he rises to power. He marries her before he rises to power.
Right, and I imagine a lot of the power or uniting of Arabia came through marriage.
Yes, like
right.
Political marriages are a huge deal. At that time, you'll see in European history as well that's one of the surest ways to form an alliance is through a political marriage.
Interesting. So, take me to the day that he dies.
So the day that he dies, he has gone to Medina to visit his wife, and effectively he has left his best friend Abu Bakr in charge of leading the Islamic community in prayer and sort of leading the church during this time that he's away.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes back to visit his wife and falls under unknown illness, falls succumb to an unknown illness, and he dies within a couple of months.
Wow.
There is a unsubstantiated, I would say, sort of old belief that perhaps it was the shunned Jewish community who had been very well established in Medina. When he went back to visit his wife in Medina, that they had poisoned him. And this adds fuel to the fire
Sure.
of the Islam versus Judaism schism.
Just the allegations alone.
Yes, is an allegation that is unsubstantiated, but the allegation alone of the death of the most important person of our whole our whole society, our whole community, our whole religion, our savior, right? You know, it's just unspeakable and enraged.
So Abu Bakr is leading this
So
Congress of people.
Abu Bakr is leading them religiously in prayer and sort of giving the sermons on Fridays. Right, Fridays is the day for gathering at the mosque as opposed to Sunday for Christians. But he's the one leading the sermons, and so when Muhammad dies and word reaches Mecca that he has died, there becomes the question, right, of who succeeds him. And it's important to note that Muhammad had 7 children, right? 3 sons and 4 daughters, but all 3 of his sons died in childhood before they ever reached adulthood, which throws a wrench in the whole succession.
Sure.
Because Arabia, like the vast majority of the world at that time, was a sort of patrilineal, either primogeniture or gavelkind, or gavelkind it might be pronounced, but either way, the succession is such that the sons of the man who was in charge, the legitimate sons of the man who was in charge, inherit his lands. Right. If a man dies without any legitimate sons alive, it throws a wrench in everything. It becomes about, okay, so you find somebody else who is in his dynasty, perhaps, so maybe like a cousin of his, right? And so the Arabic, a lot of the community lined up behind Muhammad's first cousin,
right,
Ali. So he's the son of, Muhammad's father, he's the son of Muhammad's father's brother, right? So he's his first cousin, a member of his dynasty, his tribe, of his clan, as close of blood bond as he could be without being like his brother, right?
Sure.
They're close blood bond, and he was also his son-in-law. Ali was married to one of Muhammad's daughters, Fatima, and this man had been one of the first people to convert to Islam. He had long been one of Muhammad's best friends, one of the first people that he told about his revelations and had converted to Islam.
Right. So he's a natural pick.
He is a natural.
He has the pedigree.
He has the pedigree. He is the most clear successor. The problem is, though, that this was not the man that Muhammad left in charge of prayer before he left Mecca to go to Medina.